Okay. Alright, so ini adalah chapter untuk lichen. So for this chapter, we are going to go through on this organism. So lichen is basically an organism that has an unusual structure. So it is like bacteria. It is among the oldest living thing on Earth, and this organism is not solely an organism. It is composed or consists of two organisms here to develop the thallus of lichen. Okay, so basically lichen is developed through two types of organism, which is a green algae or cyanobacteria. So mainly it is algae and fungi. So if it is an algae, usually the type of lichens are composed of green and the blue-green type. Okay, yang lain-lain tu, this is basically is a micro type of algae. But if it is a macro, dia is not suitable for development of lichens because it requires a small or micro types of algae because it needs to be embedded into the organism. So they mainly are composed of the micro types of algae. So this is the function of lichens. They are the pioneers and they are the primary colonizers. They can exist in a harsh environment. For example, in a very unusual environment, for example, very hot or very cold environment. They can, for example, in tropical desert, okay, in polar regions, for example, tempat yang ada snow, paling sejuk tempat tu, and in the alpine, Antarctic, and also in the granite boulders. So why people are very interested in studying lichens? It is because they are mainly useful ecologically, and they are can be consumed as a food, and they can also help in the production of some chemicals that might be useful for the uses of humans and also for animals. Okay, so before we understand or before we go through of how lichens could benefit humans and animals, we mainly want to know how does it look like. Okay, sama macam kalau kita nak kenal kawan ataupun kita tak pernah jumpa seseorang ataupun tak pernah kenal sesuatu, kita mesti nak kena tengok dulu. Contohnya macam you nak beli produk dekat Shopee kan, you nak beli contohnya you nak beli iPad kan. So you nak beli iPad ada macam-macam jenis. So kadang-kadang tu kita tak puas nak tengok iPad tu sebab kita tak pernah tengok iPad tu, dia punya features dia apa dia punya komponen dalam tu, yang mana yang lebih laju, mana yang lebih bagus kan. So we prefer to go to the store and take a look at the tab, right? Kalau kita tak berkesempatan untuk pergi ke store, maybe we go for a review to get to know on the on the tab, for example. Okay, same like lichens. So to get to know the structure of lichens, there are several types of or the structure of lichens. So basically, sekejap Okay. So basically, the lichens, they are having a symbiotic association with fungal and algae. So that means the fungal is a mycobion, become the mycobion, and algae, it is a photobion. Why we are calling it is a photobion is because they use they are the main source for photosynthesis. Okay, myco is the fungi. So mycobiome is unique for each species of lichen because 98% and 98% of lichen fungi is ascomycete. This is the type of fungi, and 2% of them are basidomycete or deuteromycete. Okay, so when they form um, or when they combine with algae, they are called as ascolichens, basidolichens, or deuterolichens. So these are the names of them when they have been incorporated with the types of algae. Okay, so mainly most of them are the ascomycete type. Okay, right. Okay, there are 37 genera of algae found in lichens, and the most common, like I said, the green algae and also the cyanobacteria types. These are the very common example of algae, which is the Treboxia and Trentifolia, while the cyanobacteria types are the nostoc species. And sometimes you can also see that there are a combination of two or more algae, like for example, 2 or 3 algae in the same lichen. So the function of algae in lichen is to fix the carbon dioxide so that it can do photosynthesis process. And for cyanobacteria, they don't use or they don't consume the carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. So they use the nitrogen untuk provide the nutrition to the microbiome. And what are the function of microbiome? Microbiome, they provide the apa tadi? The algae, the fungi. What are the function? They provide a physical protection. Okay, so they give protection to the algae. So the algae, they provide, they do food, or they process the food so that the microbiome can get the food to to grow. Okay, and the microbiome, they provide protection to the algae. So basically there are 3 types of structure. Okay, there are 3 major forms, which is a crustose. Okay, this is the first one. So these are the types or the how it looks like. So kalau macam yang you tengok dekat dalam test tadi, dia ada tanya soalan macam ni kan. So you nampak the structure dia macam very like a crust type. Um, there are dia macam crust. Okay, then they attach to the substratum, and they are crust-like and they are in patches, and they mainly grow on the rocks or in the tree trunks. And these are the examples: the graphite, lesidia, and hematoma. Okay, so they mainly is in the patches form. Okay, in the crust-like. So kalau kita tengok tadi the definition of the lichen structure, they can be from crust-like. Okay, kalau you siapa yang jawab quiz tadi, dia maybe can get some ideas lah apa maksud dia. So the reason why I ask you to do quiz first is because sometimes kadang-kadang when you do the quiz before go through the slide, can be useful because you can get or capture some good points or good terms during the quiz, so that macam contohnya macam you nampak the name of the species, even if the answer is wrong, that's okay, because bila you go through the slides again, you can get like some ideas, ataupun you can have macam you just like remember apa yang you dah buat quiz tadi, walaupun dia salah, tapi you can macam like a revision for you. It's a good revision. It doesn't matter kita punya markah tu rendah ke, tak full marks ke, tak kisah. Okay, tujuan kita buat quiz tu sebenarnya adalah untuk revision. Okay, selain daripada digunakan untuk penilaian. Okay, so this so they can from the crust-like, they can be differentiated into stem or roots. So yang macam this is a crustose. If you remember in the quiz just now, so you have foliose, and the third one is the fruticose. Okay, so foliose dia lebih develop daripada this patch or crust-like thallus. So where the foliose they started to have like a stem. Okay, they started to have a stem. Tapi tak berapa jelas banding dengan fruticose, dia dah ada macam a long branch, a longer stem. Okay, yang macam ni dia hanya keluarkan sikit je. So that is why it's explained here. They are very lack of differentiation, but they can be differentiated into a higher development into stem, roots, and leaves. So they are generally around 1 to 30 centimeter diameter. So so they can be as a height up to 30 centimeter diameter. They can be scattered or they can be clustered together to occupy a large area of substrate, and they can be differentiated in terms of their forms and also in colors. So how you want to differentiate the kind or the species of the lichen is through their forms. Okay, macam ni tadi. Crustose, dia punya forms is different. You can also differentiate the species. Kalau contohnya dia crustose, and then you can find that the crustose can be appeared in several types of colors, like this is like yellow and this is a greenish type, so it can differentiate the species other than its forms. Okay, the second types of lichen is foliose, where it started to give a leaf-like appearance. Like for example, you nampak kat sini dia dah mula membentuk macam daun ya, the daun dia, tapi it's still attaching to the substratum in a flat structure. They cross-sectionally they can be appeared as differentiated into layers. So when you ambil one sample and then you cut them into a cross section, bila you buka so dekat dalam tu dia boleh tunjuk that it is actually come into a several layers. Okay, the example of foliose is Parmela, Peltigera, Parmotrema, and Colema. This the Peltigera ni is quite yang paling common lah. Kalau orang bagi example, they're always referring to Peltigera species. And the third one is fruticose. Fruticose is a branch or bush-like. It's shrubby and sometimes it is several meters long. So kalau yang macam fruticose ni, dia ada a longer appearance of stem. Okay, this is the stem. Yang kat sini dia ada macam it is elongation of making it into a shrubby and bushy, so dia macam nampak macam rumput sikit. Okay, so they looks like looking like a tree branches, and they can obviously can be differentiated into multi layers compared to the folios. And examples of fruticose are Usnea, Cladonia, and Ramalina. Okay, yang tadi tu is the structure. That means their thallus. Okay, now we go into the anatomy of the lichens. So the anatomy means when you kalau secara dasarnya anatomy tu is the structure lah. The structure, that means you boleh tengok secara wholly how it looks like. Okay, so when you do some cross section of the lichen, okay, you can see the inside of the lichen, and you can actually differentiate them whether they are in the stage of which structure. Okay, for example, in foliose, so you remember we have like 3 types of lichens. So the foliose is the leaf-like structure. So they mainly have a cortex, and they are tightly packed with a fungal hyphae. Okay, they also have medulla. So these are the important ones that you need to know. Okay, the terms are the cortex, the medulla, and then they have rhizoids. So they have like upper and lower layer, and the center, and the rhizoid. Kat sini dia kata the cortex attaching to the thallus to the bugs or the soil or rocks. So these are basically the anatomy in detail. That means you can see from here in detail they are explaining that the forms, each of the forms of the lichens, they are composed of medulla, the cortex, the outer layer of the structure. They have a cortex, they have a medulla, and also this cortex and medulla helps them to do some trajectory of them of their body so that they can form a different thallus. Okay, so if they have if they grow into a lower cortex, they can form as a dia punya apa? Dia punya roots lah. Okay, so that they can be attached to the soil, bark, and rocks. So so these are the differences. Okay, if you these are the things that have been come out in your quiz just now. These are fructose, the crust-like structure of your lichen. These are the folios. So you can see that there are some lobes. Okay. Okay, there are lobes. Dekat sini is like leaf-like. So the differences, kalau you tengok secara mata kasar ataupun like at a glance at first, this structure, which is the foliose type, they basically have the almost the same structure, where you can see that they have a cortex, they have also have a medulla. Medulla is those that is in the center. That means this is the upper layer, the cortex, where you can see that this is the hyphae of the microbiome, which is your fungi. Okay, so this is where your algae is located. So that is because why only green algae and cyanobacteria can be attached or can be coexist together with fungi to make it into one organism that is called lichen. If it is a macro type, you just imagine, for example, your brown algae, it is so big, so how it's going to embed into fungi structure. Okay, so because of that, only green algae and cyanobacteria is sesuai, is very suitable to be embedded into fungi structure. So another thing that you need to look at the differences is that they have a lower cortex. Okay, for crustose, just because that this hyphae, this one yang akan attach to the substratum. So they use hyphae ni, dia tak ada lower cortex, only the upper cortex exists. For folios, they have a lower cortex and then it trajects into becoming the whole fast. Okay, so mainly what you can see is that the algal layer is embedded into the upper cortex in here. Okay, in this layer. Okay, dekat atas ni tak ada. Only on the cortex layer yang lapisan yang kedua, the second layer. Okay, this is fructicose. Fructicose is the third types of lichen forms. Okay, so they, as what you can see here, this is the structure. They have like stem, so they can grow into a longer stem kat sini, and there is one distinct formation of a structure which is epithelium. So they have a different structure here that that differentiate fruticles from folios and crustose. Okay, so they have this cortex. Okay, this is a medulla. This is pseudocortex. Kita panggil this pseudocortex because this is where it basically located. Okay, pseudocortex, and they form into a hymenium and subhymenium. Okay, at the left, okay, kat sini you boleh nampak this is when you enlarge the picture, you can see this in detail. So they have a epithelium layer, subhymenium, and those algae, okay, and those algae, they will, where do you think the algae will be located in this structure? Ada siapa boleh tolong tak dekat sini? Kalau kita tengok dekat sini, crustose and folios, most of them are located in the cortex layer. So you can see that that the algae is somewhere in this layer, kan, in the cortex, but in the second layer of the cortex. But if you see in fruticose lichen, where do you think that the green algae is located? Can you see any green algae in the structure? Boleh nampak tak ke kecil sangat? Siapa boleh bantu kat sini? Hello?
Medulla. Oh.
Dekat mana medulla dekat sini? Kalau kita tengok dekat sini kan, dekat sini dia tak duduk dekat medulla kan, dia duduk dekat cortex layer. So kalau dekat sini kita tak nampak pun the algae dekat sini kan. This is the layer of fungi, okay, that created the epithelium structure. However, where do you think that the algae will be located in fruticose lichen? Sebab kita tak nampak pun lichen dekat situ kan, algae dekat situ. Anyone can help? Tak nampak kat sini lichen dia punya, tapi I can see like there is some macam like tailing here. The algae dekat sini, it's just that they are not tightly packed like this. Kalau macam crustose, dia tak boleh nak tightly pack, but it can be tightly packed. Mungkin gambar rajah ni macam ni nak tunjukkan keberadaan the algae that is located in between the cortex. So so siapa boleh jawab tak kat sini kat mana?
Subhymenium.
Dekat subhymenium. So okay, so sebenarnya dia akan duduk dekat bahagian cortex dekat sini. But because of the formation, dia ada bentuk yang macam ni, yang berbeza daripada folios and crustos, kita tak nampak jelas. Boleh tak saya jadikan ni sebagai homework untuk tanya besok? Boleh tak semua orang tolong carikan kat mana algae ni located? Boleh Besok nanti kita akan go through the slides again, this one. Okay? Right. Now we go to reproduction. So, reproduction, kalau saya recap balik, reproduction of algae, how many types of algae? How many types of reproduction of algae? Kita ada 2 ke 3? 2 ke 3? Reproduction types. If anyone could help me on this reproduction. Reproduction ni keluar dalam exam Kalau saya nak tengok balik you punya, you dah dapat belum date untuk exam? Okay, you punya exam is on the 15th of February pagi pukul 9 sampai 12.30 hari, 3 jam. 15 hari bulan your exam 15 hari bulan 2 samaan dengan hari Selasa. So soalan reproduction memang keluar dalam you punya exam. So siapa boleh tolong saya? Reproduction of algae kita ada berapa? Kita ada 2 ke 3 ke 1?
3.
3. Iaitu?
Asexual, sexual, vegetative.
Okay. Sebenarnya betul lah ni. Asexual, sexual and vegetative. So what is the differences of each of them? Apa maksud vegetative? Kenapa nama dia vegetative? Dia vegetable ke? Kenapa nama dia vegetative? Siapa boleh tolong? Siapa yang jawab tadi Yang lain dah go through the video ke belum? Vegetative, asexual. Apa beza vegetative and asexual? Kalau saya tanya dalam soalan, apa beza vegetative dengan asexual? Give a difference or state the differences between asexual and vegetative. Boleh tak? Siapa-siapa jawab dekat sini? Macam mana ni? Kalau soalan exam keluar macam tu boleh jawab tak? Sebenarnya asexual dengan vegetative is the same lah. Sexual and vegetative. It's just that vegetative ni dia sebenarnya nak kenapa dia ditekankan dekat dalam reproduction punya slide tu is because vegetative tu is just focusing on algae yang menjalani the process of not involving any zoospores, only that the cells that can be divided into two, lepas tu dia terus ataupun satu cell terus menghasilkan kepada dua daughter cells and then forming an elongated version of cells. Okay, but asexual dia akan ada zoospores formation. Okay, boleh nanti go through balik slides reproduction tu. Okay, untuk tengok the differences of vegetative and asexual. So, reproduction of lichens. Okay, so mainly kita ada sexual and asexual life cycle. Okay, because the main body of the lichens is fungi, so kita akan ikut the reproduction of kita akan depend pada dua-dua jenis organism ni lah. Okay, mainly is a sexual and asexual. Boleh tak kita cakap lichen ni reproduce melalui vegetative? Boleh tak? Raihan ada tak Raihan kat sini? Tadi siapa yang cakap tu? Adimas Adimas cakap tadi ke? Or Adli? Hello? Kenapa kita tadi kan saya cakap reproduction of algae kita ada 3 jenis, asexual, sexual and vegetative, right? Sexual and vegetative, right? Can you divide? Why? Kenapa dia tak ada divide sexual and asexual? Kenapa dia tak tambah asexual dekat sini? dia tak letak vegetative. Kenapa dia just cakap sexual and sexual life cycle sahaja? Saat ada, Saat. Saat ada kan? Saat boleh tolong tak? Kenapa Saat? Nak kena ambil markah ni kalau macam ni. Siapa boleh
Sebab
tolong?
dia tak boleh generate dia punya their own tilers.
Dia
Dia
tak
tak boleh establish sendiri.
dia tak boleh establish sendiri sebab dia is a component of two organism, right? Dia adalah fungi and algae. So bila dia ada dua, dia tak boleh buat vegetative ni lah, because the algae might have different function or different types of reproduction. Fungi ni dia ada different types of reproduction. It depends on the types of fungi. Macam tadi kita ada berapa jenis fungi yang boleh? Berapa jenis fungi yang suitable to be a lichens? If you look back or you go back here dekat sini, pergi balik pada the first slide ni sini. Masa sini kan dia cakap 98% lichen fungi is ascomycete. Okay, and the basidiomycete and eutromycete is these are the types of species that can make up into lichen, right? So this ascomycete and basidiomycete and eutromycete might have different reproduction life cycle. So because of that, kita tak boleh nak cakap dia sebagai vegetative. We go as a whole in sexual types of reproduction. Okay, in this case, in lichens, reproduction of phytobiome is reduced in a lichenized state. Maksudnya adalah dia kita menggunakan secara as a whole lah. Maksudnya because they have a form into one organism which is lichen, so the function of the phytobiome punya reproduction tu dah kita tak gunakan dia punya life cycle anymore. Okay. So if you see here, the reproduction of lichens has becoming much more different compared to the sole organism daripada mana yang kita kenal dia dulu. Masa kita belajar reproduction life cycle, kita tahu green algae dia reproduce macam mana. Contohnya macam Chlamydomonas. Chlamydomonas can reproduce through sexual, dia pun also can do into asexual. And kalau macam cyanobacteria, dia punya life cycles are different depending on the species. So dia ada macam-macam jenis. So each of them has a different state of life cycle. But when you combine them into one organism, okay, kita mainly see here, kalau tengok sini, sexual reproduction of lichens ni is a characteristic of fungal symbionts. That means kita tengok kepada symbiont punya or fungal ni punya reproduction types. Okay, so when the ascospores are discharged, ascospores is a characteristic or of the or the spores that is dispersed by the ascomycetes. Okay, the spores that is produced by ascomycete, that means this is the fungi kan, ascomycete tu. So the spores that is discharged, but algal cells are not discharged with them. Only the spores are discharged. So it was thought that after the ascospores germinate, they can make contact with algal cells. Okay, so if you want to see in detail dekat sini, this is a very basic. Dekat sini dia tak go into detail on the lichens reproduction. Because it, as I said to you, it depends on the types of fungi characteristic. So if it is a sexual reproduction, kita tengok kepada life cycle of the fungus, and it can also be that the fungal they have or they undergo the asexual reproduction. For example, kat sini dia cakap if it is a asexual reproduction, they mainly do fragmentation mechanism. So in this fragmentation ni, yang vegetative tadilah kan, vegetative reproduction. So as I said, kita akan pergi balik pada structure of fungi. Okay, sebab algae ni dia duduk dekat dalam fungi kan. So kita kena tengok kepada percentage of organism tu yang dominant adalah fungi. So kita akan go pada fungi punya ni lah reproduction. So if they can do sexual and asexual, so if it is asexual, they can do fragmentation, and in most lichen, fragments are not normally able to establish and generate a thallus. Okay, many fruticose lichens highly adapted to propagate by thallus fragment. So when they fruticose ni is the highest development of or highest types of structure of lichen. Tadi kan yang ada bushy type of uh, structure. So when they reproduce, so they akan propagate into a thallus fragment, becoming a beard-like or epiphytic thalli. Like this is the example, Romalina, Bryora, and Cladonia, very brittle and dry state, fragmented after trampling or after crush. So this is the general characteristic explain about the asexual reproduction, that after it is fragmented or after it is done sexually reproduce, so they will involve both partners. So this, when they do vegetative reproduction, mainly they will have two types of special structure. Okay, this is a specialized structure. Number one is Soridia. Okay, that's another thing is bukanlah nama dia ni. Kenapa jadi macam ni? Isidia ni. Kan. Oh ni, this is a point, point form. So kalau you tengok dekat original slide tu, dia this is the point form. Number one is Soridia, the other one is Isidia. So Soridia is mainly on the cells. Okay, kalau you tengok dekat sini, they have ascospores dekat sini. So that you can see that the green one is your algae. So this Soridia is a specialized structure where algal cell that enveloped by the hyphae or no cortex, they can form a powdery masses on the surface of the thallus. So that means when they detach, okay, they can release these algal cells through this opening. So they will be detached after the cortex is being apa yang saya nak cakap kat sini, after this dispersed, that means the cortex layer yang akan musnah sebab dia perlu keluarkan the algae cells. So when they detach, kan, dia akan keluarkan all the algae cells. So this Soridia, dia akan disperse the established lichen into a new location. So okay, so the production of lichen into another specialized structure is the isidia. So this is a column-like structure, see, like a column. So with the cortex, they are described as warty, cylindrical, scale-like, or simple, or branch. So these are actually these slides, okay, these two slides that explain on Soridia and isidia is just to give you a brief explanation that for the reproduction of true vegetative or through asexual reproduction, they require this specialized structure, okay, before they release the algal cells to be to generate the new thallus, okay. So before they reproduce into a new thallus, that means this algae dia akan pergi pada the new fungi, so that they can produce new lichens. Okay, so dia tak akan macam they won't reproduce. Macam contohnya kalau kita belajar dulu Chlamydomonas kan dia akan menghasilkan um, akan menghasilkan the daughter cells through reproduction in the mucilage kan macam tu kan, so and then hasilkan new cells. But in lichens, because these are formed through two composition or two types of different organism, which is algae and microbiome, which is the fungi. So they can't dia tak boleh macam menghasilkan new lichens or new babies, new daughter cells. Dia tak boleh hasilkan like a new structure macam tu. So they need to release this algae yang dah duduk dekat dalam sini, so that this new algae dia akan pergi kepada new thallus of the new fungi. Okay, dia tak boleh macam satu lichen jadi new lichen. Okay. Right. So they need to have this structure lah. Soridia and Isidia. Right. So then we know that lichen is very important because they are they have a symbiotic system. So this symbiotic system, they are give equal benefit, or what you call it as a mutualism. So both of them get the same benefit. So in some lichen, the algae cells are penetrated by Hostria as a parasitic fungi. Sometimes both of them get benefit. In some cases, only one side get benefit. Yang tu yang kita panggil dia parasitic fungi. So algae tu in the end tak dapat apa-apa lah. So yang ni macam tak bagus lah, because this is not healthy relationship where you take the advantage of the other ones. Okay, although that the algae cells, it is known to provide food for fungi. So mainly 70 to 80% of carbon compounds synthesized by the algae. So these are the types or the names or the types of byproduct, okay, or the carbon compounds, which is the ribitol, mannitol, and erythritol, that is being synthesized by the algae during photosynthesis, which is passed to fungus so that it is able to get food for its growth. So the example is Peltigera. So Peltigera is the lichen that have algae. So this algae is a nostoc species that create a symbiotic relationship with a microbiome. Okay, this is a Peltigera species. So this algae, they fix the nitrogen, and also they supply carbon so that it can produce food to the microbiome. But what did the algae get in return? So basically it is a protection. Okay, like I mentioned before, it get protection. So this microbiome, the fungal hyphae, kan kita tengok tadi the structure kan dia ada cortex, they also have medulla. So the algae, they will located in between the structure. So they provide housing to the algae cell, protect from drying. So these are the function of why microbiome is helpful in what are the or what the algae get in return when they incorporate algae with them. Okay, to prevent them from excessive light. Okay, and why is that the hyphae is in a loose structure is because they will provide a space so that the gas exchange process can happen in the hyphae. Kalau you pergi balik pada slide yang tadi saya tunjuk tadi tu, yang keluar dalam you punya quiz tadi tu, kalau you can see the medulla, the cortex, the hyphae is not so dense, so that it will help the algae to build a housing there, to do their daily process dekat situ, to do the process of gas exchanging. So kalau dia compact, the hyphae is too compact, it cannot be a good environment or good space lah untuk algae tu. So algae tu akan mati dan dia tak akan jadi a mutualistic relationship anymore. Okay. These are the importance of lichen. This is very, very straightforward. You can go through the slide by yourself. So saya akan just pass through macam tu je. Okay. In ecology, kita tahu that lichens are pioneer in vegetation. So dia becoming like a pioneer. Like kalau macam dekat dalam lautan, apa kita punya the first producer kita adalah phytoplankton, right? First producer kita adalah phytoplankton. Kalau dalam kita punya ekologi yang normal atas on earth, lichen can be one of the pioneer vegetation, so the first to inhabit, so that the other organism can use them for to grow. Okay, jadikan dia sebagai satu kawasan yang sesuai. Contohnya macam the plants we use this or use this lichen to grow another secondary plant. It can also be used as a food, for example. Okay, so these are the examples. Okay, macam ni yang tadi saya cerita. So it provides the exposed rocks and volcanic regions, so they are weathering the rocks, build up the organic debris, make a suitable place for a higher plants. So these are the secondary plants that can grow atas lichen too. So they usually can be found in the rainforest and in Arctic region or Alpine region, and they can grow 1 millimeter per year. So that means you just imagine 1 millimeter is about this. Ni 1 sentimeter kan? 1 sentimeter. Sekejap Kalau 1 sentimeter. Kalau 1 millimeter is about this. Okay? So you just imagine 1 tahun dia tumbuh macam ni je. So dia punya growth is very, very slow. Okay? And other than its importance in ecology, they can be used as a food. So siapa yang makan lichen ni is usually the animals. For example, the reindeer mouse. This is the name, the local name. Okay, kita panggil dia reindeer mouse, or the species is called as a Cladonia rangifera. So these are eaten by the Arctic animals such as reindeer, deer, or caribou. So they eat these types of lichen for their food. Another animals is sheep. Okay, they also graze on Aspilicia. Susahnya nak sebut ni, Aspilicia species in the desert. So this kan kita tahu kan yang the lichen, they can be found very easily in the snowy area, in the desert, in the very hot, very extreme weather, like a very hot or very cold weather. So who consume all of them? Orang animal yang ada dekat kawasan yang extreme condition tu lah. Kan macam reindeer, deer, dekat desert, sheep lah. Okay, and another example is land snail and some insect that eat the lichens that grows on the soil. So that did human consume lichen? Yes, but tak banyak yang consume the food. So usually ini adalah bukan makanan pilihan. Okay, bukan makanan pilihan. So kalau you are trapped, for example, in a desert ke ataupun in the snowy mountains, if you find the lichen, it is edible. Okay, so they use for survival lah. Sebab tu dia cakap macam Cladina species. This species they can be used for it is not toxic. It can be eaten. Okay, and usually they are taste bitter, and that they don't really have a nutritional value. So this is not a choice of food lah, because of that tak banyak orang pun nak makan this food. Okay, banding dengan algae has a very nutritious vitamins, dia ada banyak polysaccharides punya content that can be used for to form an agar to produce into a food production, kan, if it's very good for food lines. So for lichens, this is not a choice of for your food consumption lah. Another application for lichen is that it can be an indicator of pollution, because lichen, they can absorb water. They can also absorb other types of pollutants, for example, fluoride, ozone, herbicides, nitrogen oxide. Pen ni, I can't remember the full name, tapi kalau you buka dekat dalam slides, buka pada PowerPoint, dekat bawah tu biasanya saya ada letak nota. You go kat bawah tu, kat bawah ni, sini saya tak boleh buka sebab sini dia apps lain. Jadi kalau you, kadang-kadang tu saya ada buat elaboration dekat bawah each slide tu. Macam contohnya dia ada like short form kan. So nanti kat bawah tu you akan tengok, kat bawah tu saya ada cerita explain bawah tu in detail. So lichen is more sensitive to SO2. Apa dia tu? SO2, sulfur dioxide. So sulfur dioxide is paling dia boleh absorb, and also some radioactive elements. And when they absorb all these hazardous pollutants, so they can be indicated by the thallus reduction of size. Okay, the fruiting that is suppressed. So this is indication of that they are actually absorbing the pollutants. So we know that we can compare them, the normal ones in the normal size, and the area that is contain a high pollutants. So the growth is not as good as in the environment that has a higher or low contents of pollutants. Okay. Sekejap. Okay. Okay, other uses of lichens is it is very useful for medicinal value, for lung disease, for hydrophobia. Hydrophobia tu apa? Takut air kan? Hydrophobia. Phobia takut air. In folk medicine, they usually prepare as tea. Another application is for poison against the wolves. So they can be used to treat those with yang ada got poison from the wolves. Dia kena gigit macam tu. Another is antibiotic, usnic acid from usnia. They are effective against fungi, bacteria. Usnic acid was found to inhibit growth of gram-positive bacteria. So that means it can be an antibacterial agent. Antibacterial agent. Okay. To control plant disease, for example, in tomato and tobacco that is infected by viruses, they can be used to control this disease. Okay, apa lagi kat sini? Ini yang sama. Slide yang sama. Okay, I think this is the last one. To be used as textiles dyes. So this lichen, it can be extracted is component that can give colors of purple and also brown. So so they are being documented to be used during the ancient Rome as a purple dye, or apa ni tu gas, I'm not sure apa benda ni tak tulis, tapi the thing that we should know is that they can be extracted into dyes. Okay, and one of the most famous is the Scottish Harris tweed. So this this orang yang buat ini adalah yang buat makanan pula, apa benda ni? Okay, dia buat baju. So they use to extract the color from, or the dyes from lichen to produce the colors for, or to dye the wool for the apa dia nak buat baju kat sini kan, tak silap saya. Okay.